The sad state of Starfield. Oh no! How could this happen?
Fair to say, I've kept the spirit of positivity surrounding Starfield. I don't do it because I feel I have to, but because I genuinely enjoyed the game. Many people misinterpret that as me trying to be the glass half full guy when I'm just looking at it as it is, as I enjoyed that glass of water, if you will. And so I had fun with Starfield.
What did you enjoy about Starfield? The bad gunplay? The shitty shipbuilding? The non-existent exploration? The completely written by a 5-year-old storyline? I really, every time someone says, oh, I had fun with Starfield, I really want to know what fun they had. Which parts of Starfield were magically appealing to them.
Then I've never been afraid to say that, but I also had a lot of optimism for Starfield's future. You know, I've approached it like a live service product, for better, for worse. That's how I've looked at it. Bethesda's committed to...
Why would you ever look at a Bethesda product and say, yeah, I'm happy for this future, it's gonna be great. Look at Fallout 76, how great that turned. Oh wait, it's shit. And everything else that Bethesda has pumped out also has never had any future except for mods. Skyrim, absolutely zero updates except, modding. Bugs, everything. Every single Bethesda game has literally no future outside of mods.
Years of updates, and I know this may be a video that could eventually age like milk, but I have to talk about it as it is now as we approach the half-year mark, which is crazy since Starfield's release. We just made a video last week talking about Starfield 5 months later, which many people in the comments were surprised, going, what? Really? And also many people playing games since Starfield have said that it feels like Starfield has aged considerably already, which is not a good sign.
What do you mean, aged considerably already? And yes, I agree, whatever that means, that's probably not a good sign. The fact that Starfield's updates have been minor bug fixes, and half the bug fixes they report they fix, they don't actually fix, and then they need to attempt 3 more times. And I'm not making, sadly, this up, I'm serious. Bethesda has attempted to fix many bugs more than 2 times. Some more than 3 times at this point. It is kind of crazy of the level of ineptitude that Bethesda is displaying on a constant basis.
But other people's opinions aside, what I want to talk about today is the sad state I found Starfield in. As someone who enjoys the game, mind you, I know this could easily get spun into a super negative piece, and don't get me wrong, it'll be critical, but I'm looking at it as a fan who wants to go back and enjoy new things Bethesda's adding, and the pace at which updates are coming out, I think is fine. What's being
I have no idea what does that even mean, honestly.
added when you look at what was initially promised, which I'll bring up here. We've been reading all your feedback. We're going to start launching these new features, new ways to travel, city maps. For those of you who love shipbuilding, we're going to be expanding that with decoration options, new...
Holy! Can you imagine? You're Bethesda, and you're like, we're listening to the feedback. Here's a city map. Here's an FOV slider. Here's an eat button. No, seriously, the only thing they have added is an FOV slider. A thing that everyone knew is not gonna be in Starfield since its release. And 2, that Bethesda will not be updating for, a couple of months. Bethesda has a history with FOV sliders. They don't exist. Everyone complains that they should exist. Bethesda takes a half year and they are added at some point. That's what's happening here. Oh my lord. The eat button is probably... Yes, I'm not kidding. The eat button. Probably the most major update Starfield has ever received. Can you imagine that being a great update? And the maps, the city maps. You only need to make you understand you only need to make 4 or 5 maybe city maps and that's it? And we can't even have that? They have been talking about city maps for months now. You just need to make 4 city maps or something and you're done. You can't even add that?
Options, new gameplay options is in the second paragraph. You'll be able to alter your difficulty. They talk about things like cargo capacity, carry capacity, ship damage, vendor credits, afflictions. They talk about survival mechanics. And in the bottom paragraph, they mention official mod support coming to Starfield with the launch of Creation's early
paid mod support. Do not misunderstand this, paid mod support.
Next year. So I have to imagine that a lot of this stuff should be arriving soon. But when I saw the March update for Starfield, it was one of those moments where I went, what are we doing? Like, why? I hate to sound like that kind of gamer because many people know I don't approach my coverage that way. But truly, I looked at the Starfield update, which we're going to go through today, and then talk a little bit more about the aftermath.
Bro has, by the way, given up on Fallout 76, Starfield. Yo, he's completely understanding that Bethesda is a shit company. It's a miracle.
I went, what are we doing and why is it taking so long? I think part of the reason I feel that way more so is when it was Bethesda Game Studios independently, I thought to myself, okay, it's just them. They are a smaller team compared to most AAA efforts. Therefore, things may move a little slower than we're...
What do you mean? Starfield is still being actively worked upon by 200 developers. 200 developers. I mean, that eat button took 200 developers, boys.
Typically used to. But the market has sped up since between Fallout 4 and Starfield, between Fallout 76 and Starfield, where people demand content sooner. And when you have Microsoft/Xbox at your back and they put everyone in QA on Starfield, and Starfield did have, whether it was critically received well or not, or fan reception was good or not, it did really well. The player base is there, where I thought Bethesda was going to hammer home updates quick. Now, I'm willing to be forgiving of the 2023 window after launch, patch the game up, right? Figure some things out, create a roadmap, create a plan. You look at the top of the year, they've had some pretty sizable patches. I mean, seriously, take a scroll through the list that you're seeing on screen here. There's a lot in these patches, and I'm not going to poo-poo.
No, there is not a lot in these patches. Half of this shit doesn't do anything. Half of this shit is not what people want. The bug fixes don't work. A lot of these bug fixes don't work. And yeah, that's pretty much honestly it. When you're calling a major patch just 30 bug fixes or whatever, they had like 50 bug fixes in a patch and they called this the biggest thing ever. Okay, good games like Baldur's Gate 3 does 200 bug fixes and doesn't even announce that because it's a minor thing. Okay, Bethesda takes out the whole clown fucking show to announce that they fixed 50 bugs. It's an absolute ridiculous pile of garbage nothing. And the fact that most of these things aren't actually fixed, they just claim they're fixed, but they're not actually fixed, is even crazier. The fact that they constantly claim that, oh, we fixed this. Oh, no, wait, no. The asteroid that was following your ships, that one that you could never get rid of. They fixed that thing 4 times. 4 times. And at this point, there's not enough players to actually know if the asteroid is fixed. That's just Bethesda for you.
Any of that. But what I will say is what's going to draw more people back in or have people give the game a second chance is new features, especially addressing feedback. For me, seeing the millionth Starfield update with a laundry list of fixes, you know what it reminds me of? And I wouldn't say this game was nearly as broken at launch, but it reminds me of Cyberpunk, where you just see this long list of quest fixes, art fixes, gameplay fixes, but no real new mechanics, if you will. And the reason I'm making this video now is, again, you go back to the promise that was made, which was, for example, at the top of the new year, beginning early next year. We're now in March, and we already have the March update, and it's going to be another 6 weeks or so until we get another Starfield update. And yes, you see that Creations is supposed to be launching then. And I think this is very much pivotal to the lifespan of Starfield. I'm not one of those doomers that I've seen videos on acting like Starfield's modding community is dead. There's a shit ton of mods already.
Starfield's modding community is kind of dead, though.
And it's only going to grow more with the addition of the modding kit. We'll see how far things can go, but I strongly believe, like with every previous Bethesda Game Studios game, that the gaps will be filled once more by modders. So until there's real true reason to have extreme concern about that, I'm not doing on that front. But the one thing I would say is Bethesda, clock's ticking. You got modders that are kind of abandoning your project to go work on like older IP, Fallout, Elder Scrolls, and you need to draw them to your new product because they're going to push you forward just like they've pushed you forward for Fallout.
Saying modders aren't abandoning it and then doing a sentence like this does not in any way for me install confidence, not gonna lie.
Like they push you forward for Elder Scrolls, like you kind of need to be on that. So I have to say, I thought the modding kit would be out by this point in time. It's disappointing to see that's not the case. But more than anything, you look at some of the features in this newest update. Photo mode, new expressions and poses on the player and companions in photo mode.
Dude, whoever thought that this is actually important or people want this deserves the worst in life, okay?
Scanner, this is a solid one. You can open doors and harvest with the scanner open, so you don't gotta put it away, interact, but not like a real big deal, right? Other options here. Setting course on an inactive quest will now make it active. Added support for adjusting FOV when using third-person ship view. Added a quality slider on PC. Removed the digipick cost for using undo during the security minigame. Added an autosave when fast traveling from a planet's surface to orbit. It's crazy that actually wasn't in the game in the first place. And updated the ship UI to perform more smoothly at higher frame rates. Again, look, if this was...
None of that is even remotely close to making Starfield a good game.
Bethesda on their own, I'd be like, all right, fine, let them cook. But you look at some of these updates, and I'm going, guys, if you have Xbox at your back, like people were expecting a pretty big push after Starfield came out. I'm just leveling at this point, man. Like there was a
Xbox is the only reason why Starfield didn't turn out to be a Fallout 76 repeat scenario with the bugs. Because Starfield was ready to release like a year or even 2 years back, and Xbox looked at it and said, "Hell no! You're fixing the bugs. What the fuck is this?"
a much larger expectation for post-launch support. So the question is, what's going on? Where is it? When's it going to happen? I don't think Bethesda's abandoned anything for what it's worth, and that's why I said this video could eventually age like milk. But what I will say is, I believe, if I were to wager a guess, what is the plan for Bethesda right now? I think modding will come out within the next month. It has to. It has to sooner rather than later. It's already pretty urgent. I think it's even more urgent.
Wait, isn't this video older than a month?
Urgent when you get into
I think this video was older than a month. 4 weeks ago, yes. Nice.
the month of April. I do think Bethesda may be sitting on their bigger updates and additions. Why is that? I do think back to that wave of criticism that slammed them outside the release of Starfield, right? I mean, it wasn't just a couple of people. If you search Starfield on YouTube, I'm sure all you will find is extremely critical videos of the game. Any recommended Starfield
Yeah, obviously. Oh, it's a really bad game.
video to me has not been positive, okay? And that's just the honest truth of the matter. People had a lot of hopes for Starfield, and in many cases on a critical level, it did not deliver to people. And even if I enjoyed it a lot, I get where people are coming.
The worst part about Starfield is that it doesn't make sense on any level. What the fuck is even NASA punk? I don't know. This is definitely not punk. I don't know why they're calling it NASA. The story doesn't make... Nothing about Starfield makes sense. That's probably the worst part. Todd Howard lies a lot, but I think Starfield, the things that he said about this game, that's even a lot for him to a degree.
Coming from, and you need to address those people. So if you're Bethesda, do you piecemeal those updates? Do you gradually roll them out? Or do you wait when people are looking at your game again and not just covering it on like a basis I may be doing, when people are looking at your game again and say, hey, a lot of this stuff has just been added to the game. What do I mean by that? We know Shattered Space is coming this year. At the end of year update for Starfield, they confirmed at the bottom of the blog post that Starfield is coming at the end of 2024. Okay, great. So you got to show that off sooner rather than later. I think it's a pretty safe bet, since Xbox has already confirmed their summer showcase, that Starfield's Shattered Space expansion will reveal itself here. What would be a good way to get people into the Starfield mood and say, hey, look at all the things we've done thus far? Tell them, hey, this big update, it dropped right now, and it's free, and it adds X, Y, and Z. Right now, again, you go back to this end of year update and they mention things like the city maps. They mention new features like new ways to travel, new gameplay options. And I don't know if all of this is going to hit at once, right? This is kind of their plan for what I think is the year. So I don't think all of this is going to hit at once. But what if a massive update hits Starfield around the timing of them announcing Shattered Space. You have that there, and now you have the attention and maybe a little more optimism building once more. Right now, does Bethesda truly stand to gain if they put out a couple of great free updates and people across Reddit, Twitter, maybe a video or two from me and other people still playing Starfield look at it and go like, hey, this is pretty good. Yeah, you might want to check it out. Or do you wait for the moment with the big pop? And if you're Bethesda, I think you can kind of win either way.
What kind of magical big pop are we talking about here, though? I really wonder. What do they need to do to make a big pop? Most people, as far as I can tell, hate Starfield on a fundamental level. The story is bad. The gameplay is bad. Everything is unironically bad. The setting is bad. The RNG is bad. The skill trees are bad. Like, a big pop would be pretty much remaking the game from the ground up, unironically, at this point.
But I think the latter has a bigger payoff if you start to address those real concerns. Especially if the one thing we're not talking about, we're all going over free updates, is what does Shattered Space bring into the picture, right?
Nothing.
What is that going to address, if anything at all? Because I feel like you have to have these smaller, free, incremental upgrades.
It's gonna address the aliens. And since, you know what's my favorite part about Shattered Space is like, the best part about Starfield, and obviously I mean the worst part about Starfield when I say that, is its story. My god, is the story just full-blown autism. Remember when the main writer for this garbage dumpster fire went on a Twitter tirade and stated how good he is at writing and people are just too stupid to understand the genius of Starfield's writing? Yeah, the same guy is gonna handle Shattered Space. It's gonna be great, you know? I'm sure we're not gonna have any issues that, you know, these magical gravity-defying temporal anomaly temples are gonna, you know, spawn right there next to a settlement that can literally look at them from, you know, like 5 meters away. I'm sure none of that's gonna happen. Dude, Starfield lore-wise makes absolutely not even a single fucking lick of sense. Okay? And again, Shattered Space is probably going to be even worse because they're probably going to answer the in-depth questions of Starfield, which would be aliens. Who are they? Starborn. Why are they? And, you know, things like that, which would be hilariously crazy. Because, again, the weakest part about Starfield is by far the writing, because it doesn't make sense ever. Even your first 5 minutes of gameplay, if you pay attention to what is being said, you're like, holy shit, this is stupid. None of this makes sense.
Throughout the lifespan of the game, year by year, but then the expansions have to bring new planets, new cities, new features, new mechanics. Like, they have to bring the big guns out. So what does Shattered Space bring out that maybe was missing from the base game is what I'm keen to see. And that's where I think things lie right now. But there's no denying that Starfield, I think in its current state, it's pretty sad, especially as we covered in our 5 months later video for Starfield. I look at Fallout 4 and how quickly its DLC came out. And yes, I'm not going to have rose-tinted glasses. I was complaining up a storm at how much workshop DLC Bethesda was doing. But we also got things like the Automatron DLC. We got Far Harbor. We got Nuka World. And that was in, like, what?
That's also true, by the way. All of these DLCs for Fallout 4 just came out so fast. Originally, dude, if Starfield did as good as, you know, Fallout 4, it would have had already its second DLC probably out by now. But instead, well, you know what we got.
A 5 to 6 month span. It's almost been 6 months and Starfield has got nothing. It is definitely disappointing. I can be sympathetic and understanding to maybe after Starfield launched, the team took a break, got back into the swing of things, pushed out a couple of final updates for the year. But it's not even just me zeroing in on this single update. One of the last updates for the year for Starfield in 2023 was maybe like 3 or 4 bullet points long. It just felt like the team was scratching and clawing their way out of an arduous year and had to reset mentally, which again, I can sympathize with, but I am just reading from the outside looking in, speculating pretty heavily here, pretty liberally here. But I will just say that I think these updates need to be more. as a fan of Starfield, I look at them and I'm not going back to it. I'll be real, like I don't give a shit about photo mode, man. Like why is that a targeted feature right now? Why are you not targeting
Because I don't know even why. Why would they think that photo mode matters? Is just beyond me.
exploration? Why are you not targeting fun gameplay options? Why aren't you targeting survival mechanics? Like,
I think it's because it's hot. Anyway, I think I'm done. That was Mr. Matty Plays. Wow, everyone's losing hope with Starfield. It's amazing. Anyway, this was Quizzer Sid saying thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Have a nice day. Bye bye.